music. I didn't know if I would ever marry someone or have children. What Malcolm-Jamal Warner said wasn't just a quick confession. It was a mirror of a lifetime of love that had ended in heartbreak. For a long time, people knew him as Theo. Huxtable from The Cosby Show. He learned early on that love always meant losing someone. He was right, too. Malcolm sat quietly in a resting room in Costa Rica on the last day before fate did its work and wrote down 5 names. The light was golden, not good friends or bad enemies. These lovers had hurt him so badly that he told them, "I will never forgive." Each name represented a different part of his life. A pure first love turned into a tragedy. A long-lasting relationship that softly ended a beautiful Hollywood romance turned sour. Unanswered questions and a late haven crew stolen by fate. Malcolm didn't say anything to anyone but the page before he died. Still, one question keeps coming up. What were those 5 names? What made him hold on to his anger until the very end of his life? Not just love. Malcolm-Jamal Warner became a movie star in his 20s and became a symbol of a new age. The young Theo Huxtable became a common name in America thanks to The Cosby Show. He brought joy, innocence, and even hope to a society that was changing. However, when the studio lights went out, she wasn't that naive girl anymore. He was, always trying to find the right mix between his huge fame and his very fragile personal life. He was an artist with many skills. People remember him as an actor, singer, and director. But not many people knew that Malcolm wanted love more than praise when he wasn't in the spotlight. His words in an interview, "I'm not afraid to fail in my career, but I'm afraid of being alone in a dark room." In his rough love life, that line, which was both soft and haunting, was the one thing that kept him together. In public, Malcolm dated beautiful women from Hollywood, young singers, co-stars on set, and women from outside the business. But there were heavy silences between the posed pictures and red carpet smiles. He loved deeply, but it was hard to forgive. And every time his heart broke, he chose to be quiet, leaving behind only cryptic lines in interviews, sad blues songs, or diary notes that were never read. That quiet was broken by the most honest words near the end of his life. A list of 5 women. He called them wounds that wouldn't heal. They weren't just loves, they were shadows that made him feel alone. Before we start each of these stories, let's remember one thing. Malcolm was a lot more than an artist. That man had a weak heart and used to think that he had given and lost. That loss formed the Malcolm-Jamal Warner that the world never really got to know. Michelle Thomas, the first true love, and loss that can't be replaced. A lot of people say that the first love is the best form of love because it is both sweet and fragile. This love for Malcolm-Jamal Warner was Michelle Thomas. She was his on-screen girlfriend and his first real-life partner. She hurt him so much that the wound would never fully heal. In 1988, over 30 million people watched The Cosby Show every week, making it a huge cultural hit in the United States. And that season, Michelle Thomas, who was only 20 years old, was cast as Theo Huxtable's girlfriend, Justine Phillips, who would be paired with Malcolm. It all started as an on-screen couple for the 18-year-old man and the beautiful young woman. But in between takes, the planned looks turned into real ones. From acting like lovers for the camera, behind the scenes, they fell in love. They didn't want fans or the press to know too much about their relationship, so they kept it quiet. But they were easy to spot because of the way their eyes lit up when they held hands at events or when they fell asleep together after a long day on set. People were thrilled. Justine and Theo were no longer just a couple on TV. In real life, they had become a sign of young love. Malcolm and Michelle were the golden pair of late 1980s entertainment. They were beautiful, famous, and talented. During their 6 years together, Malcolm's first love became his rock. The Cosby Show ruled the airwaves, which made him famous early on but also put a lot of pressure on him. Michelle was the one who stood when the lights went out, by his side, listening, talking, and giving comfort. Malcolm had a hard time figuring out what to do after the show finished in 1992, but Michelle was still there for him. They kept supporting each other even after she joined Family Matters in 1993. Even after they broke up in 1997, Michelle made a guest appearance on his sitcom Malcolm and Eddie, which shows that they still had a strong bond. Love isn't a fairy tale, though. In 1994, when they were both in their 20s and facing new challenges, they broke up quietly. There were no fights or scandals. Instead, their differences grew as they worked on their own jobs. Malcolm was 24 and Michelle was 26. The paths they picked were parallel. Still, they stayed close and loved each other like soulmates. Michelle, then only 29 years old, was told she had a rare form of stomach cancer in 1997. That was the real tragedy. The sickness quickly made her weak. She was getting care at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York in December 1998. Malcolm took off right away from Los Angeles when he heard the news. Even though they hadn't seen each other in years, he stayed by her bedside and held her hand as she died. Michelle said two strange things in a quiet hospital room. Elephant drink. Malcolm was confused for a moment until he remembered that. It was their secret love language that, when spoken out loud, sounded like, "I love you." Her last soft words of love, but very deep. Malcolm smiled and said the same thing back, ending the circle of their love. Following a few days, on December 23, 1998, Michelle passed away. She was 30 years old. Malcolm stayed right there with her and held her hand whole time. Malcolm's worst shock in life was that loss. He had to leave his first love, the first woman he had ever truly loved, when he was 28 years old. Malcolm told people about her for years afterward. He put an old picture of Michelle on Instagram in 2015 and wrote, "An angel walking the earth, lighting up every place she went. Take it easy, my love. We miss you." These words made a lot of fans come to tears. Malcolm always had room in his heart for Michelle, even after they got married and Malcolm became a dad. And when he died in 2025, Michelle's public memorial page said goodbye. Not believable. Peace out. I feel bad for your family. After 27 years, it looked like they were back together, but this time in a different world. Malcolm-Jamal Warner never forgot that Michelle was taken away from him too soon. There was a ghost of that first love that followed him around all his life. People say that time can fix anything. But Malcolm never found someone to fill the hole left by Michelle Thomas, Karen Molina White, the long-term love and the damage that can't be fixed bone break. Karen Molina White was the candle that burned slowly, if Michelle Thomas was the first flame that lit the heart of a young person. Steady, long-lasting, but finally dying away in silence. The love story between Malcolm-Jamal Warner and Karen wasn't as exciting or beautiful as his relationship with Michelle, but it did show a time of growth, depth, and hope. It ended with a void that nothing could fill. They met in the early 1990s, when both of them were well known on American TV. In 1989-1992, Karen played Charmaine Brown on The Cosby Show. She was also known for her part in A Different World. People were already interested in Malcolm as a young star. Their relationship grew easily from the set and through people they both knew. When their friendship turned into love, they seemed to find a rare sort of peace. Karen was born in 1965, 1 year before Malcolm, who was born in 1970. So, to people outside the group, she sometimes seemed like the more grounded person. But the truth is that their bond wasn't one of teaching. They walked the trip together. They were in love for a long time, not just a few months or years. They were together for almost 10 years and went through many big business events together. Malcolm's life took a tough turn when he was in his 20s. After The Cosby Show stopped in 1992, he was looking for something new to do. And in 1996, He started the show Malcolm and Eddie. Karen was always there for him and helped him. They went to many events together. They aren't afraid to show love in public, but they never want attention or trouble. Fans got used to seeing Malcolm, who was quiet and polite, next to Karen, who was cool and poised. Michelle Thomas, Malcolm's first love, was a guest star on Malcolm and Eddie in 1997. During that time, Karen stayed in his life. Fans quietly admired her for this. Her partner's past was important to her, so she didn't act jealous or cause trouble. It was proof of how grown-up their love was. But no love can stand the test of time. When the early 2000s came around, Malcolm and Karen were still together, but not as much as they used to be. There was no big news, no incident, and no crying in public. They just stopped showing up, together. The Hollywood press quickly talked about the couple's quiet breakup, but no one knew why. It could have been work conflicts. They may have seen that they were no longer on the same road, but the public's interest grew because of the silence. After the breakup, Karen Melina White said in a rare interview, "We had a very beautiful, long love, and I will always cherish it." Like many people who had a relationship end, Malcolm decided to be quiet. But people who knew him well knew that the split had made him very sad. Getting rid of Michelle was painful because of fate, but getting rid of Karen was painful because of time and change. It said Malcolm told a close friend, "I don't know what to do after the split. I feel bad about letting her go, and I'll never forgive myself for it." That one line showed a lot of guilt. Love doesn't always end because of hate or betrayal. It dies from being alone and being farther away. The worst kind of pain is the one that is hard to forget. After many years, when Malcolm had his own family and was settled down, he still showed Karen a lot of respect. They weren't close anymore, but they never said anything bad about each other. Don't let the past hold you back. The people saw their relationship as mature but unfinished. For Malcolm, it was the second part of a long, steady journey through his heart that finished in regret. If Michelle was the first person who made him feel sad about losing someone, then Karen was. Proof that even the most beautiful and long-lasting loves can end, and those 5 people he would never forgive. Karen wasn't there because she was betrayed. Malcolm never forgiven himself or fate for losing a love that could have lasted forever. Karen King. Whenever a public love turns into an unmet expectation. Michelle Thomas was Malcolm-Jamal Warner's first love, and Karen Melina White was his long-term partner. Regina King, on the other hand, was the part of his love life that became public, leaving no room for lies. All eyes were on this relationship, which everyone talked about and hoped would end happily. But things don't always go as planned in real life. They met in the early 2000s when they were both already famous. Hollywood has many faces. Regina was born in 1971 and became famous for her part in 227 Boys and the Hood. She has since had many other roles in movies and TV shows that were praised by many. Malcolm, who was getting ready to turn 30, was more adult and calm, and he was looking for something lasting after several broken hearts. Their shared love of art made the bond quick and strong. Malcolm didn't hide this connection like he did the others. He walked the red carpet with Regina at parties and award shows. When they went to the BET Awards together in 2011, they got a lot of attention. Maggie Sharp in a suit and a red dress that makes her glow. The media gave the golden couple of Black Hollywood a lot of praise. Fans thought this was Malcolm had been looking for a home for years after years of being on the move. Regina and Malcolm were seen as a perfect pair while they were together. Regina liked Malcolm because he was stable and calm. She had been through a divorce and was raising her son, Ian Alexander Jr., by herself. Malcolm liked Regina's strength, ability, and magnetic personality in return. They helped each other and seemed like a mature, experienced pair who knew how important love was after losing someone close to them. Then, in 2013, something unexpected happened. After 2 years of being happy in public, they broke up. Regina quietly took down the pictures they had shared on social media. Malcolm didn't say anything. There were rumors going around in the news. The split happened because they weren't committed to each other anymore. She was ready for more, a new husband and a safe place for her son to live. Even though Malcolm was truly in love, he was hesitant to get married. Some sources said the split was anything but peaceful. A close friend of Regina's said she felt cheated because Malcolm pulled away when she needed to be sure. Regina, who was as strong as ever, didn't cry in public, but she did say something that was very telling in a short interview.